Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Nick Prefontaine is a real estate expert and public speaker, and also the creator of the S.T.E.P system. He came up with this following a freak accident that left him with some terrible injuries. In fact, doctors thought he would never walk again. But Nick had other ideas. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Nick.
So excited to be here, Liz.
Now, you are a public speaker. You have a business to do with real estate, stemming from an accident you had, which we're going to go into shortly. But I'd love to know what the pre-accident Nick was like. What did he want to do? What was his ambition in life?
Oh, geez, Liz, that's a question I've only been asked a few times, a few separate times. It's hard for me to conceptualize really pre-accident, because it was almost like I believe I'm the same person, but people that, and I've talked to family and everyone that have known me and everything, and it's like you're two different. I'm two different people. From before the accident and after the accident. I like to think I'm the same, but I don't have that third party looking in on me. So I've had that feedback from family members that I'm like, no, not really the same.
Yeah. And was there anything particularly at school that you liked doing? Any particular subjects that you enjoyed?
Well, that's a perfect segue into telling my story about my accident. So I was in 8th grade at the time, Liz, and it was always a big deal to be released a little bit early, and we always were released a little bit early when we had ski club.
Yeah.
So that was the day. We got released a little bit early. We were pumped about that. And then my friends and I had all brought our snowboard gear onto the bus to get ready so we wouldn't miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. And we got to the mountain and we had it right for the chairlift. The rest of the class went inside to get ready, and we were ready to go. So we didn't want to waste a second. On the way up the chairlift, though, we noticed that it was very icy because it had been raining earlier in the day. Yeah. People were wiping out everywhere. And where the chairlift actually went, it was right over the terrain park where all of the jumps were.
Yeah.
I knew as soon as I saw it that I had to be going off the biggest jump in the terrain park. So got to the top, buckled into my snowboard, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and confidently charged towards that jump with all my speed. And going up to the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard, and that's the last thing that I remember.
Yeah.
So I learned later that I landed on my head, and I wasn't wearing a helmet.
Right.
And there are really three things that I credit to being able to be here today and share this story. The first of which, they wanted to bring a helicopter to the mountain to rush me to the hospital, but they couldn't because it was too windy, so they had to send in an ambulance, and out of all the paramedics in the area, there was only one who could intubate right on the spot, and I needed that to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
So lucky for me, he was one of the paramedics that showed up to the mountain that day. And then something else I learned is that although I wasn't wearing a helmet, my pair of goggles that I had on the top of my head or covering my eyes, I don't even know which one it was at this point, they were very thick, had a lot of padding, and the doctors and experts and everyone after the fact told me that not only did they brace my impact, but as I continued to roll down the mountain, it continued to hit my head against the ice, the goggles moved to cushion each blow. So that was the second thing. And the third is when I got to the hospital, listen, I was out. I was in a coma. I couldn't communicate with anyone. And the only people that were allowed to see me at that time was my parents. So my parents were in my room, my hospital room in the ICU, and the doctors came in to share the. I'm sure you understand this. When you have an acute injury or a traumatic injury at a hospital, the hospital can't paint a rosy picture and tell you, oh, everything's going to be okay. Yeah. They have to give you the worst case scenario. Yeah. So the doctors came into my room and they started to share the not so good news, not so good news, not so good news right in front of me. And my mom stopped them. And she said, no, not in front of them, not in front of him. She understood that even though I was in a coma, I was still taking in information. Yeah. So she made the doctors step outside my room. And then once they were there, that's where they told my parents that I probably, even if they weren't sure how long I was going to be in the coma, and even if I was going to come out, and there was a good chance that I probably wouldn't be able to walk, talk, or eat on my own ever again. So my parents, to their credit, they took the information, thanked the doctors, and then what this did was allow me to treat it like any other situation. So I was in coma for 3 weeks. It was a partially induced coma because they had to wait for the swelling to come down in my brain. And I really don't remember a month, though. So a month after my accident, I was transported to a rehab hospital. And that's where kind of my first memories and my journey began. So it was right around this time that I started to use a system unknowingly to not only make a full recovery, but run out of the hospital. And that's what I teach to this day. So what I was thinking, I'll give like a 10,000 foot view. And if anyone's interested at the end, I can give them a way they can download the entire system for free.
Brilliant, yeah.
So
just a quick question. So
yeah, go ahead.
So our school system in the UK is slightly different. So 8th grade, how old were you?
14.
14. Okay. So very young to have this awful thing happen to you, and yet you came up with this system. Well, you realised later that you'd come up with this system. So tell us more about that and how you made such a miraculous recovery.
It's almost like I queued you up to ask me that. Yeah, it's that's what I was going to talk about. So I was about that time when I was transported to the rehab hospital. I was still in a wheelchair. If anything, it was a whisper at best. Because if you remember, I had to learn how to talk again. So I didn't have a voice at the beginning. It was a whisper at best. And I could overhear my parents meeting with my team of doctors and therapists. And they were saying, okay, what do we need to do to make sure Nick makes a full recovery? I heard in the back of my head, you're going to run out of the hospital. So then I was able to communicate that to the rest of the team. And that became our common goal of me running out of the hospital. And like I said, I'll introduce the S.T.E.P system, 10,000 foot view. It's an acronym. It stands for support. So make sure that you have the support of your family and friends right from the beginning. And this is going to have you falling back on relationships that you built prior to your setback. T is trust. Trust that once you take your first step, your next step's always going to be available to you. This also starts, I already covered it, with trusting that voice that you have within inside of yourself. And we all have it, but a lot of us push it down and think, oh no, that wouldn't be realistic. Why who, me? Why could I do that? So then E is energy. Maintaining your energy allows your body's natural ability to be able to heal itself. And medication has the potential to get in the way of that. So, Liz, obviously within reason here, that first night in the hospital cost $250,000. So if it wasn't for modern medicine, I wouldn't be here today. However, the way that I always like to illustrate energy is this way. When I was transported to the rehab hospital, I would get up in the middle of the night and I would have to go to the bathroom. this is before I was cleared to walk, and my grandfather was staying next to me. And I didn't have a voice at the time, so if you think of it, I leaned over my bed and I tried to wake him up, get his attention, but he couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
So I had to lower the hospital bed myself, go to the bathroom, and then make it back to bed. And nothing ever happened. But the hospital found out the next day and they freaked out. And they're like, no, we're going to give him this much more medication before bed. That way he'll be able to sleep through the night. And my mom's like, no, you're not. Just ask him not to do that. So they asked me not to do that, and it didn't happen again. But if I didn't have that advocate there to kind of play interference, they would have just, they're just doing their job, of course. They have to do hundreds of patients, but that's important. That's how I always like to illustrate energy. And then P is persistence. So once you've taken your first step, keep getting up every day and taking your next step, no matter how small. And by continuing to move forward every day, you are building an unstoppable momentum. So if you fast forward less than 60 days later, I realized my goal of running out of the hospital. And I mean, it wasn't like my work was done. I had to continue to go to outpatient therapy for another 6 months, along with being tutored all summer long in order to continue on to high school with the rest of my classmates. And then after high school, I got my real estate license, was help working with buyers and sellers, real estate sales as a realtor. Then in 2014, my dad came to me, and prior to that, in 2013, he started buying homes as an investor creatively. So without using any of his money or investor down payments or big down payments or signing personally on loans. And then however he was buying them, he was starting to accumulate a lot of property by 2014. So he needed help with putting them on the rent-to-own market. Yeah. And that's where he came to me. So just to give the listeners like a 10,000-foot view, and I'm still involved in our family real estate business, and some of the ways you buy, just to keep it real simple, and I can give listeners at the end again links that they can go and check this out if they're interested. Is we'll buy homes on a lease purchase, where we'll just buy at lease purchase, and meaning that we won't actually close on it yet. It's basically a delayed cash sale. We'll take over all responsibility for maintenance, repair, and upkeep over the course of the term, and then get a loan in the future on that property, or one of our buyers will. Yeah. Second is we'll actually close on a home subject to someone's existing loan. The third, if they don't have any debt on the property, we'll actually structure principal-only payments and close on the property. So those are just a few of the ways, just to keep it simple, that we buy. And however we buy, we're always selling on a rent-to-own agreement. So to a buyer who can't, for whatever reason, Liz, walk into a bank and get a loan today. So there's roughly only 18 or 20% of the market who can walk into a bank and get a loan. So I'm not saying the other 80% is they're all great. However, there's a large percentage in there who, number one, they make great income. And number two, they have money saved for the down payment. They just, for whatever reason, can't walk into a bank and get a loan. Yeah. Like a lot of self-employed people, business owners, that kind of thing. So we're getting them into the home with a down payment, of course, anywhere from 3 to 10%. Then getting them hooked up with credit enhancement, and then getting them on the path to home ownership. And over the course of usually like 90% of the time, it's they get most of the agreements. 90% of the time are 24 months. Yeah. So they're able to get a loan within 24 months. Yeah. And then part of that is I actually let my real estate license go in January of 2016 and joined my dad full time in our family business. And part of that, I have always had the opportunity to tell my story and share my story about my accident on events that we have once or twice a year. And I've always had this list since I've, again, with the voice in the back of your head, I've always had this voice since I got out of high school saying to me that, okay, yeah, great, Nick, but what you really need to be doing is telling your story from stage and helping trauma survivors or life challenge survivors thrive with the rest of their lives. So that voice has always been there. And doing this speaking at our events, we started holding events in 2016. I always thought, okay, I'm scratching that itch. I'm listening to the voice. However, that's not 100%. That's not 100% true. So, it was getting quieter when I was doing that because I was like, all right, I'm doing it. Then in 2019, I had someone approach me after hearing me share my story. And at that point, it had been the longest that I'd ever shared my story. It was maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And she said, I love your story. Great job. And I'm not trying to steal you from your dad and your family business. However, if you're ever looking to kind of fine-tune your message and bring it to another level, I can introduce you to a few coaches and mentors that have helped me along the way. And I wasn't ready yet because I was actually still going through the final throes of a voice challenge that I was dealing with. And I think if you'll, we don't have enough time for me to get into it today. However, if you'll have me back in the future, maybe we can dive into that. So I wasn't ready yet. However, I always hung on to her card. And in May of 2021, I finally reached out to her and said, okay, I'm ready. What should I do? Who should I talk to?
Yeah.
She introduced me to one of her mentors, and that became my mentor, Trisha Brooke. And from my first conversation with Trisha, there has been no voice in the back of my head.
Yeah.
So I shared with her my goals and what I was looking to do, Liz, and I said, do you think that's possible? She said, yes, absolutely. I said, all right, what do you think I should do? She said, the speaker salon. And that's you commute to New York City for 6 weeks in a row. And on the final week, you perform your talk, your 10 to 15 minute talk that you've worked on with me and up to 10 or 15 other speakers in those 5 weeks. You get to perform that for TEDx organizers, event organizers and planners, podcast hosts, like other people who are looking for speakers to book to their event. So you get to do that. And she said, that's $25,000. So I said, yes. And then working with her during the speaker salon, she approached me, and about halfway through the speaker salon, she said she specializes in working with speakers, help them build out their speaker platform. And I didn't even know what that was, Liz. It was just a total foreign concept to me. However, I just knew, I felt it inside of myself, going back to the voice in the back of your head. I had to do this. There was no option. I had to do this. So she said, that working one-on-one with me is $75,000. And I said, I don't have that underneath my mattress, but give me a week and I'll figure it out. So I went and applied for financing and got approved. And 6 days later, I sent her the money. And the reason I say this is prior to Trisha, I was maybe sharing my story for, 10, 15, 20 minutes max, once or twice a year. Now I'm sharing 50 and 60-minute plus keynotes to brain injury associations all over the country, and also other organizations that support individuals that are going through trauma. And she was the one who helped me launch my company, Common Goal, and really develop the STEP system and everything. So I'm truly blessed, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So tell me about what kind of impact it has on audiences when you tell them your story.
The feedback that I get, and I can tell when the message really resonates, because the feedback and the people that approach me are what they're going through is similar to like what I went through. And even like a little harder and a little more severe. And the feedback that I get from people is that, oh my God, you gave me so much hope that I can keep going forward. That I can just keep moving forward, apply the STEP system, and I can get through it, and then be able to thrive with the rest of my life. And that's really that's one of my messages, is that once you get through whatever you're going through, health challenge, crisis, trauma, that you'll be able to thrive with the rest of your life.
Yeah. So let's turn to networking now then, Nick. How does networking feature in your life?
Oh my gosh. I would say, all right, so I'm going to go back to working with Trisha. So working with Trisha and having that, like, in kind of locking arms with a mentor like that, the business contacts and the that is networking. The people that I've met through her have been amazing. And amazing friendships that I've made, and that I still communicate with several times a year, and check in on their progress and see how I can support them and how they're doing. And it's amazing to me, really. And again, I'm so happy that I did.
Yeah. And your network must have grown enormously from doing all the public speaking that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And just working with her, I had the opportunity to do so many different events. And and I may have shared this with you, Liz, but at December of 2022, I went over to Oxford, England, and recorded my Oxford talk. And that experience was pretty amazing. Definitely life-changing, doing my talk at Oxford Union, being in a library where U.S. presidents have spoken like Martin Luther King, Gandhi. I mean, it's insane, like the energy that you feel when you're doing that.
Yeah. So are there any audiences that you haven't spoken in front of yet that you would like to get in front of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, what it has been up until this point is really a lot of, as I mentioned, brain injury associations. I mean, pretty much in the United States, most states within the United States, the 50 states, have their own brain injury association. So, mostly I've been speaking for those associations or alliances. Like at their annual events, or if they have like a webinar series or anything like that. So I've been doing a lot of speaking for them, and I'm really starting to branch out and to other ways that I can help people with the STEP system, because the more and more that I'm kind of just growing and networking is the phrase that you used, and touching other people, is that I'm seeing the wide applications for the STEP system. Yeah. So I'm really starting to branch out and not just do brain injury associations and other associations that support individuals that are going through trauma. So it's really just a start, and I feel like I have that thought, I have that comment. If you check in with me every couple of months, I can't shake it. I just can't shake the feeling of that I'm just getting started. So, to answer your question, there are so many organizations and groups that I could be speaking to and sharing the STEP system with.
Yeah. So my final question then, Nick, is if anyone listening is interested in booking you as a speaker or finding out more about you and the STEP system, what is the best place for them to find you?
So I'll give you a couple things here. I know I kind of went over it quickly. The way we buy and sell real estate and helping out rent home buyers. If anything piqued your interest about what I said in that realm, you can go to smartrealestatecoach.com/master's class, and there you'll be able to get registered for a free master's class that's going to teach you all about how we buy and sell real estate without using any of our money or little money or signing personally. And then if you go to nickprefontaine.com/STEP, you'll be able to download the entire STEP system for free and learn all about support, trust, energy, and persistence. And then while you're there as well, you'll be able to check out some of my other videos for speaking. And then you can reach out there. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. Yeah, that's a great place to start, I would say.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for being my guest, and I've really enjoyed listening to your story, Nick.
Oh, this has been fun. Thanks for having me, Liz.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.